There's not a good or bad exercise. There's not an exercise that's worthless. Is this client weak as hell? Yeah, cool. Then the clamshell, you know what? That would be a great place for them to start. Like, so instead of like, I almost swore, but like crapping on certain exercises because people are like, oh, that's not going to give you anything. Whereas just like, but where's the client at? Where do they need to go? Is that a good entry point? Maybe, and then we can progress it. But it's like maybe the exercise, if it doesn't reap any benefit, then that's not the exercise for them at that point.
Hello and welcome to whatever this is. It's going to be a webinar, Discord, podcast. Why I already failed it, see? So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a webinar, it's a podcast. It's a way to give back to everyone who follows us and listens to us, which is just like probably my mom and yours, and like maybe maybe Eugene and Paula. But for those of you who don't know us, I'm Mohan and this is Jackie. That's all you need to know. Uh, Jackie wants to talk a little bit about athletes, right? If I'm not mistaken. Do you want to give like a ish, right?
That was not the topic, but we could talk about
We
that
can talk
too.
about athletes. I thought it was about athletes. I don't even know my show notes. What did you? What were you gonna talk about?
I said I was going to talk about how thoracic extension is needed in certain things and how sometimes people over cue like ribs down and things like that.
In athletics. No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
We
The
could talk
athlete
about whatever.
No, the athlete thing is actually Irida. Like that's why it was so fresh in my head. Like she's gonna talk about athletes, especially runners and stuff. That's why it was
Hmm.
fresh in my head. I'm so sorry. That is a fantastic thing, actually. The thoracic extension cue. God damn, I hate it so much. Like, I love it and hate it. Or the opposite of thoracic extension is the thing that we both like dislike. Is like people think they're really extended, and the first thing they do is they bring this rib cage down as much as they can, and they get like all Quasimodo, Hunchback of Notre Dame. So yeah, that's what you want to talk about. So I'll let you have um, the spotlight. So if you want to do an intro as well for your again for my mom and your mom,
For,
then that
for
sounds
for our
great.
moms and my sisters and my boyfriend who trolls me. Um yeah, I don't know how much I wanted to really say on the topic. I think it's just um it's kind of like everything else where it's like when people get really excited about learning about how rib cage needs to be stacked over pelvis, and then end up kind of like running away with it. And so I guess the big thing that I wanted to address is that like there in the fitness world, there's just like realms of like things that like the fitness industry is like overly focusing on, and we shift all the way to one end and then we shift all the way back to the other end. And so I feel like there was a point where people were trying to run away from too much extension because they were like, oh, compression is really bad, because when you extend your thoracic spine, you're going to get a little bit more compression, or it's more global. More global extension is going to be a little bit more compression, which is, I maybe that's why you thought of the athlete thing, because a lot of like athletes and like sports, it is more like an extension bias kind of thing. But then I find that we kind of are going to the opposite, and then we start to cue more of like rib cage down because we're telling people that they're too extended, where it's like we need to be able to have an understanding of there are positions where we need thoracic extension. It's not a bad thing. We just need to know when it's supposed to be there and how to appropriately cue it. So kind of like you were saying, where it's like people are thinking that rib cage stacked over pelvis is, and then they end up cueing more flexion, so then it ends up getting into more down into this position instead of just actually finding a good neutral position, and then having people understand where their ability of extension actually is and how much flexion they actually have. If that makes sense. I feel like we're people are queuing too much of, or afraid to queue much of this, and then they queue this, and it's like you didn't help them find any position of neutral. You just brought them from one end all the way to the other end, and it's like we need access of both things, and we need to know why and when we need to be able to use these things. I hope I articulated that well.
No, no, yeah, absolutely, you did. It's how I look at it is the idea, like as you said, fitness industry goes in circles, right? Something's good, now it's bad. Even like every industry, nutrition, fat's bad, fat's good, carbs bad, carbs good. Like we just do these like like people just look at specific concepts through just one lens, and then they can kind of find problems with it, and then that just gets labeled as bad. Whereas like I think poison is in the dosage, right? You do need a lot of like you need thoracic extension for strong pressing. You need thoracic extension for like balancing a bar overhead. You need extension to a certain extent for a lot of athletic endeavors. The issue
Hmm.
is if we just pursue that extension, we have only a finite amount of it. Eventually, we'll run out of that extension, and we have to get it somewhere else. And that's where like powerlifters. I'm making a post about this. Like literally, it's going to be such a nice carousel. Uh, Powerlifters, they need thoracic extension for a strong press, but in their
Hmm.
pursuit of that thoracic extension, eventually they run out of extension. So they like borrow from lumbar extension, and that's when we say, okay, that's too much now. And then
Hmm.
all they do is thoracic extension drills, and we're like, okay, as you said, now we just need to bring the dial a little bit back. But this is where like some is good, more is not necessarily better. And I think like whenever we hit an issue on one end of the spectrum, the solution people have is to go completely the opposite. It's not just like the solution is just less of that, but they just like jam their heads towards the other direction and go towards it as fast
Hmm.
as possible. Yeah, as you said, like people are extended, and we're like, okay, under the bar, if you're extended, if you're an anterior pelvic tilt, your glutes are disadvantaged, you blah blah blah. You might not have the best position to squat, for example. This is we
Hmm.
both see this in a squat a lot. And then the solution is to just like jam this rib cage down. So like if anterior pelvic tilt was bad, now all you're doing is going to posterior pelvic tilt. That surely is also equally
It's also bad.
bad, right? So like where are we missing that? Like where on this continuum do we say that like okay, that's enough? And then like and that's like at least for me that when you brought the topic up, this is where my head immediately went to. It was like she's gonna talk about that like a little bit movement on that spectrum, not jump from one end to the other.
Yeah, and I think it's also like the more you start to train people, the more you start to have a better understanding of where everyone's capacity is with where they're at now. So that's really such a big thing. And that's why I feel like, it's like if you watch someone who is just entirely like this and then you tell them to do this, it's just like, okay, now they just moved into flexion. But like, where can I slowly get them to dial that back? And it's like, the more you work with different spines, the more you're like, okay, this cue or how I tell them to just shift in this position slightly is slowly going to get them so that they maintain some kind of range. Like kind of like you were saying before, is like people who are, doing a particular sport or task and they repeatedly do it and they stay in one set of ranges. And it's like the thing that's going to kind of help you, I want to say like keep longevity of your sport is maintaining almost as much range back and forth as you can. So it's like if we have extension here and flexion here, and I'm only working here, it doesn't mean we always have to be going back to the end range, but it means that like there needs to be some relative degree of like, okay, we can move through extension and we can move through a degree of flexion. And if I call upon you, you know where your neutral is. And it's like people don't know where to find or scale that degree. And I think it also has to go with like where the person is at, because it's like what might be like, yeah, that's fully flexion or that's definitely neutral, like might not be something the person has access at that point in time.
It's as you were talking, I just had an idea of it, like a Mohan analogy that either like lands perfectly, and like after a somersault, or just falls on its ass, and people are like, "What the hell are you talking about?" But it's down regulate or de-escalating a conflict, right? If I'm like really angry, if I'm up here, right, and you come to me and be like, dude, calm down. There is so much difference here that I'll just freak out more, right? But they say if you want to de-escalate a confrontation, or if someone's really panicky and up here, you just match that a little bit less, and then like a little bit less, and then that's how you can bring them back down. But if I just like you're
Hmm.
shouting at me, like we're both in relationships, right? Like if Paula's upset at me or like she's shouting off the top of her lungs, and if I go like, "Babes, relax," oh my god, that'll just like flip the switch
Never.
even more, right? But somehow, like we know this, like this is just kind
Hmm.
of common sense. Like don't take like bring people just slightly lower or away from where they are, and that's how like you just kind of build. But in fitness, we've kind of forget that. We're like, oh, you're here. Let's go there where you've never been before, and it's just the same thing as like calm down, right? It'll just make people panic. I know you're itching to talk about like the front foot elevated split squat because that's the exercise for me. Is like someone's center of mass is so far forward, we just need to bring it a little bit less forward. Less forward is not shift them as far back as possible, right? Like
Hmm.
that's the calm down of
Hmm.
exercises, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah.
Go
Sorry,
for
you
it.
just had me. I would like I had a thought and it was just really, really funny. But yeah, I think I kind of lost my train of thought, but I had something really good to say. Oh
All
man.
right, they'll come back.
I guess this is gonna be my recorded ADHD on film now. I can't run away from it. Say the last thing you said.
ADHD, recognize the ADHD.
Mhm.
Just like I kind of threw you a line from because I know you were itching to take a shot at front foot elevated split squats. So saying that front foot elevated split squats or shifting someone's center of mass really far back is that
Mhm.
like for me it's just like when you're having a fight with someone and just tell them to calm down.
Yeah, I feel like that's not it for me. I feel like my exercise is, doing a heel elevated back squat.
Okay,
When I got that, I was like, don't be giving me this. I'm on my toes all the time. This ain't gonna help me. As someone who is always a little bit more forward. Yeah, even I'm not gonna throw this I'm not gonna say this person, but it's like kind of like in the discussion I was having with you before about someone with their deadlift, and they were talking about foot pressure, and I was like, is no one looking at the person on the screen and how their focus was foot pressure and they can't even get foot pressure? Why are we telling them just focus more on foot pressure? Like, that's not going to help them. Like, okay.
yeah. Let's go this way. I'm gonna try to like just kind of change the conversation a little because I know where you're going from. But again, it's the trendy things to say, right? Like like every time someone learns something new, like and I think this happens in many circles is the moment someone learns something, they don't truly understand it. Like they just heard it, right? And they think that's just a solution, so they just throw it at everyone. But
Hmm.
this is where like I think practical application goes a long way because there's so many times that I've learned something, especially when I was in person. I was like, oh, this is a cool idea, but I had like a great, a vast number of clients that just go and practice it on, and I was like, oh my god, this exercise, like I learned about hip airplane, right? And I just like there was a 2 month period that I took all my clients through a hip airplane, and it was like okay, it has its benefits, but also it has its shortcomings for a lot of people. Like there are a lot of people again, as I said, like it's such a like it's such a big change from where they already exist. Like they stand on two legs and I push them and they fall. How am I gonna put them on one leg and expect them to actually move around that like around that hip, close the chain, open the chain, find internal rotation, find external rotation. Like that's just so far away from their norm. And I think this is what like again, if there's a conversation to be had, it's about as you said, where is the client and what's the amount of change we can introduce to that client to just get a positive result, right? And it's
Hmm.
minimal dose. It's not something crazy. It honestly is just a small shift.
Yeah, this actually, I remember what I was gonna say now, and it actually applies to what you just said. It's like, you always just want to put your client in a position to win.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are we gonna jam our clients into exercises or positions that we know they don't have or they're nowhere near? And it's like, that's not going to benefit them in any way. It's like, yes, okay, if this exercise has the ability to work on all of the things that we are trying to aim for. But it's like if you know and understand how the body in front of you is going to move, then it's just like you already know that you're like, that probably is going to be an exercise that's like not even going to be beneficial to them because
Yeah.
they can't do or execute these things because they're so far over here. So it's like, why don't I just give them a skill, or why don't I just give them an exercise that it's like just slowly draws them to where they need to be? And yeah, like I hope airplane is a good exercise if you have like um yeah, a good ability to stand on one leg. Like sometimes it's just like you can have someone who's like strong as hell and can do a bunch of single leg movements, but maybe it's just like having that pelvic control standing on the one leg is like impossible for them to do.
Exactly. It's and again, like this is where labeling exercise is good or bad, or labeling exercise is the best fix for something. This is where like one of the things I have an issue with in social media, because n equals one for every human, right? The best exercise is the one that works for that person. Now, as coaches, I also understand there is a side to it that like our clients sometimes come to us with issues, and they've gotten into that issue from doing the same things they've done over and over. So I need to tell them, like, again, I need to create some sort of a change, and there might be resistance to that change. And I can't just be like, oh, I'm just gonna give them things that they were winning with, because like, first of all, they're not winning, right? Because they are in pain, right? So
Right,
like,
right, right.
yeah. So like, even if they like it, I either take an exercise, I might take an exercise away, or I might introduce something. Like recently, I gave someone an exercise, and the moment he saw it, he was like, I don't like doing this because I'm uncomfortable, right? So I was like, fair, I understand. Can you send me a video? Because obviously, first of all, it's an online coaching. I was like, do you mind doing it and sending me a video so I can see if I can fix something, and then maybe you'll do it and you like it. And if not, if we couldn't meet that, then definitely it's out of your program. I'm not gonna keep it there, right?
Mhm,
But like
mhm.
so there is a little bit of a pushback, but for a little bit of a change. I was and like if he does it, I'm gonna just try to like, and he sends me a video. I'm gonna introduce a little bit of change. Okay, maybe small cue, one cue at a time. I'm just gonna look at the camera for this. Can we stop over cueing people? Like the guy can't find foot pressure. First of all, don't just say find full foot pressure. If you say it like 3 times and they don't, there is a bigger issue, right? Like just if one cue didn't work once, find something else. And also don't shout like 5 things at a time. One thing at a time and see if it sticks or not. And if it doesn't stick, probably it's not the right cue for them. Simple. Like not all cues are equal.
Mhm, mhm.
Quality for cues, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, that was definitely something I mean, slightly digress, but during COVID it was like really trying to figure out cues that worked for people because I used to be such more of like a tangible cuer just because of like my dance background and that was like just such a big thing. So it's like really understanding like okay, what word or what short phrase can I say that's going to get them to move exactly how I want them to? And also like I love talking to smart people, but like even as a trainer who understands smart things, I don't even talk with such big language. Like even like it just and there's nothing wrong if you want to talk about, internally rotating and nutation of the sacrum and all of these fun things, but like in real time, when we don't have time, why are we saying these big things and these big cues and why are we throwing 10,000 things where it's like all you maybe had to do is say, okay, just sit tall. Instead of being like, okay, we need the sternum up and then we need to make sure that we're bracing adequately and that the position of this is here. So and it's like you're confusing them so much where it's like, I even say this to my clients. I'm like, don't like get like analysis by paralysis by analysis, if you will. So it's just like we can see and identify all the things that we need to work on, but your focus right now is the one thing. And then it's like once we are slowly nailing that one thing, we can kind of slowly move on to the next thing. Because it's just like having even someone who it's like I can adjust things in real time because that's how I'm trained. Like I'll be in the middle of a dance combination and someone yells at me to change something, I can do it. But it's like if you got 10 things going on, it's like the body can't register and transmit that and then you expect to do it with someone who's gen pop, like and maybe not even gen pop, even just like, someone who might be an advanced lifter, like it could be different for each person.
Exactly. I like that example you gave because like I just did a Muay Thai class today, right? And I have a martial arts background. I've done like kickboxing forever and everything else. I used to teach kickboxing. But even for me now, because I haven't done it for a while, like when they're telling me combos, especially like it's fantastic. You get to train with the trainer, and they call out the combo, right? If they go like past 4 moves, free sometimes past 3 moves, I've lost the fourth one, I've lost the fifth one, right? Because and it's and now imagine us throwing so many cues at people who are just not ready for it. Like I
Hmm.
jab, cross, hook, uppercut, I got it. If you say jab, cross, hook, uppercut, knee, I'm I'm like a witch knee, like whichever one comes up first hits you, right?
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so like if we there is a limit of how much people can react uh, to anything you throw at them. So first of all, keep it simple, not that many. I like the idea of keeping cues simpler as well, or a little bit more generic. But sometimes if there is a cue that I know it has been used generically and it has caused problems, I will follow it up by like I'll be like, yeah, like chest up, for example, but then I'll follow it up by, and what I mean by that is don't arch like I want the top of your ribcage to come up, not
Hmm.
arching from the like lower um, spine or lower back.
Yeah. And I think also because a majority of your clients are also
Yeah,
they're
like
coaches. So it's
yeah.
like their understanding of your cueing, they can comprehend it more. Where it's like if I'm coaching someone in person real time, like maybe during the rest time, I'll give them a little breakdown of like what my cue actually means. But it's like the cue itself is just like push, lock, done. Like, like deadlift, like lock in the lat. So it's just like lock, push. That's it. Because it's like anything else is like, okay, make sure we have a little bit of protraction of the arms and like make sure the arms are locked out and then the midfoot pressure and, all of these things are important. And it's like sometimes just those things can be encompassed by simpler cues if we just slowly start to have a better understanding of how people move or even just like predicting how we can see our clients going to move or mess up. I
Mhm.
think once I can watch somebody move and see how they execute a certain exercise, I already have like an inkling of if I were to ask them to do this exercise, how they may or may not compensate with it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I think, like not all the time, but like a majority of the time, I could watch something and I'd be like, yeah, okay. So for this one, this is going to be your cue. Like, for example, like in, certain exercises, I would never be like, yeah, I want you to drive through your heels on your deadlift. But if this person is forward all the time, I'm going to be like, I just want you to think about driving through your heels because all you want to do is just like fall forward all the time,
Yeah.
so kind of things like that. But I like what you were saying before where it's like not just like having certain exercises, for certain things all the time. And I think this I might have mentioned this before to you, but I'm going to mention Veronica. She said this one time in a lab that I was in where it's kind of like sometimes certain exercises are also like known in like certain kind of styles of training, whether it's like quote unquote athletic training or like something specific for weightlifting or something specific for bodybuilding, when it's like they're just exercises. And that also kind of goes also like with what people would call quote unquote corrective exercises. It's like what is actually a corrective exercise? Like, what do you deem something that's a corrective exercise in your mind? It's like it's really just okay, an exercise that is it something that corrects something? Is it something that you have a like a preconceived notion that it's only for just like physical therapy, when it's like, I even had a new client of mine where they were like, oh, this thing is bothering me, should we add more corrective exercises? I'm like, no, because you don't know how to execute this exercise.
Mhm.
I'm like, it's not, I was like, it's not about adding more corrective exercises. It's about you being able to perform these tasks correctly. And I was like, and I'm going to scale either the tempo, the load, the variation, but it's not a corrective exercise. Like, I'm still giving you a row. I'm still giving you a variation of a split squat. I'm not saying that, like, some of these, what are called corrective exercises, aren't like adequate, but I just feel like we need to start to like scale away from like designating certain exercises for these certain things, because like kind of like there was one discussion we had about good mornings and people were like, oh, good mornings, aren't good or they're trash, or like kind of like you said, away from exercises that are good or bad. And it's like you just need to know when it's appropriate to use it for the client. There's not a good or bad exercise. There's not an exercise that's worthless. Like it's just like Is this client weak as hell? Yeah, cool. Then the clamshell, you know what, that would be a great place for them to start, like, so instead of like, I almost swore, but like crapping on certain exercises because people are like, oh, that's not going to give you anything, where it's just like, but where's the client at, where do they need to go, is that a good entry point, maybe, and then we can progress it. But it's like, maybe the exercise, if it doesn't reap any benefit, then that's not the exercise for them at that point.
Yeah, it's meeting people where they are. As I said, like I don't think there was a time like if someone came to me with something, I would try to be like, oh, this doesn't work, blah blah blah, this. Now I'm like, okay, you have been doing these exercises. I might not agree with it. You might have been doing donkey kicks for like for as far as I know. You might be like lying down on a bench and doing like these like kick up the Smith machine. It's one of the exercises I personally don't agree with. Like, but if that's all you know, I cannot suddenly be like, no, that's the worst thing you can do. You have to do like this, and this, a Bulgarian split squat, or like in a blah, blah. I will try and find something that's like close enough to what they're, because it's their language, right? Like we're trying to.
Hmm.
I think one of the best things is like calling it movement literacy, like understanding where people's movement language is at, and trying to communicate with that. Like if you're in a country that you don't speak the same language, you start pointing at stuff. You find the closest thing to it. You like that's communication. That's the training because the language the person is talking to you is not the same language that you speak, right? So you're
Hmm.
just like, okay, well, let's put glute this movement. Oh, you know, feel good. Let's go this, right? Like just this common denominator is where we're gonna start with. Slowly getting them to like make like now progress this towards things that we deem could be more useful, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
like making better decisions with it. Like I have a gripe with like corrective exercises as well because it just insinuates that something is incorrect. Whereas like the more you see humans are very adaptable. That's like this is why we're at the top of the food chain. Like we can just adapt
Hmm.
to anything. As a dancer, you know this. Like you can freaking like mess up your feet to the nth degree and still live for the rest of your life, right? And so we can adapt to stuff. So nothing's necessarily incorrect. As I think how you put it is, it's situationally appropriate or inappropriate. And then it like, trust me, there are exercises that are fucking. I see, I've swore already. This is all right. I absolutely despise. I hate them to my core. But that's my personal biases, right? And if someone comes to me, and again, if that's the only thing they know, I will find the closest common denominator, yeah, and just like go work from there,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And,
Yeah.
and I think it's a reminder that we all have to have because like coaches do this all the time. They just think something's correct, but it comes from experience. So just be open, and it takes time, right? And I still might make mistakes, but I'm definitely way very different from what I was before, which I would just like shit on things all the time and be like, this is correct, this is wrong, this is right, and try to
Hmm.
meet people where they're at.
Yeah. It's kind of like a lot of people shit on the Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for example, I had a client who came to me one day and he was like, I threw at my back or my back hurts. And I was like, I put him in a Superman. And guess what? It made him feel better. And it's just kind of like, is it a shit exercise? No, well, it worked at that point in time when he needed it. Like, so, um, yeah, everything is kind of just situational when you know when to apply XYZ for what they need. Um, and I think that's why a lot of clients or people, they get really confused on what is the best or what they should be doing. And because there's just so many clickbaity things out there that are like, don't do this, do this. Don't do this, do this. And it's like, just just work out. It's I feel like half of my job is just trying to simplify the overcomplicated things that are on social media, that it's kind of just like they're taking one fact and they run away with it, that makes it like an ultimatum. And it's like, I'm kind of the same way. There are some exercises like, I have some clients who want to get a big booty and they're like, I want to do glute kickbacks, and for some reason, something in my soul, I hate glute kickbacks. I think I just hate what they stand for. But you know what? If I got a client who wants to do them and is like, I want to grow glutes and I want to do X, Y, Bet. Let's throw them in there. You know why? Because I know for a fact you're going to feel like a gym girly, and that's going to make you so happy. And if you do it well and your glutes grow, fantastic. I'm not saying it's a bad exercise. They're just like, for some reason, I just personally don't like it. I don't think it's a bad exercise. You will never catch me dead doing it, as just, again, my own personal bias. And that's
I'll
fine.
totally change your program right now. Every day, glute kickback,
Glute kickback all 4 days.
glute med kickback, lengthened, shortened, all sort of angles.
Standing, one kneeling on bench.
Yeah,
Like,
right. Oh God, God, like bench in front of you, more external stability. But yeah, I absolutely agree, and I think, and now I lost my thought process because like I thought it would be funny to put glute kickbacks in your program, but oh yeah, I said like I think like this also stems from human nature to a certain extent because it's easy to look for one fix all solutions because you said like that guy his back hurts, right? And then he comes to you and you're like, "God, do Superman," and then he does Superman and his back doesn't hurt anymore. And it just takes 1 second of association. Oh, back painful, Superman no back, Superman, like it's no back pain, so Superman fixes back pain, right? And like the next, every time he has back pain, or like maybe if someone has back pain, it's like, dude, I did this thing and it went away. Like that's where I also see
mm,
where it comes from, that like humans
mhm,
have this thing, right?
mhm,
Which if they see results, they just like they think it's repeatable and they just want to do the same thing over and over again.
mhm,
Whereas um, it's a little bit more complicated than that. I even the conversation we had like I made a couple of days ago. Like sometimes pain is just not even movement. It's just that you haven't had your Snickers, right? Like you're just in like your energy availability is so low that your body just cannot handle anything. Like just a little bit more stress before it's an intolerance. It's just like lactose intolerance. It's in the name, intolerance. Certain
mhm,
amount you can tolerate, after a certain amount you can't. So with movement and like your body's capability of kind of like dealing with pain or dealing with issues, especially if it's in a state like high alert state, if it's in a really high stress state, if it's a really high inflammation state or low energy availability, then its tolerance is lower. So then now the things that normally it wouldn't bother it'll like start lighting up these pathways, and they'll tell you like, oh, this is a problem, this is a problem. And sometimes it is. It could lead to a bigger problem. It could be like oh, maybe like down the line this becomes a problem, but you never know. So like this why like the whole idea of exercises fixing stuff sometimes gets difficult. And also I remembered one more thing. I'm going to take one more jump and like go on a
mhm,
tangent. Is also when we cue people or tell them to do an exercise and everything else, understanding that like yes, you might be one of those lucky humans, or you might be one of those lucky coaches. You say something and it just clicks in someone's head, and they do it, and all the problems goes away immediately. But more often than not, it takes more practice, right? It
mhm,
doesn't go away with one. And that's why I think like in the circles that we are and everything else, people try to sound smart and they try to give you that one solution without understanding that like no, they can take some time. We're not always gonna get the fix with just like, oh, I said the magic words, right? I use the example of, in theory, everybody should know. If you're right-handed, in theory, you know everything there is to know about writing with your left hand, but you just haven't built the motor patterns to do it. Theoretically, it's the same. I know how to like form letters. I know how to move my hand and everything else. I know how to hold a pen, but I just haven't done it. So I haven't built those motor pathways and everything else for me to be able to like be dexterous enough to perform that test, and that takes time. So just because we gave someone a cue, like we tell them and then like we don't check back with them anymore, especially online. Like, okay, go take these cues, and like, did it help, did it get better, did it get worse, what was the progression, what was the regression? It's like, oh, it
mhm,
didn't work, yeah, okay, then now your problem is this. We're like, no, 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 wait. Maybe we need 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks, four, like, maybe it'll take
mhm.
4 weeks for you to actually be able to fully implement things.
Yeah. And I think it goes also hand in hand where it's like, okay, now you are executing the task a little bit better, but it takes a bit for your body to catch up, not only just like skill wise, but also like strength wise. So I agree with you on that, where it's like not all, associating, oh, I did this one exercise and it helped fix me. And, I do like to break down with my clients, like, I'm having you do this because I need you to move from this to this. And this is the thing you need to work on, so that we don't associate the one exercise with the end all be all of fixing problems. But you're right, there is more complexity to it, where it's like there's phases of each thing. Like it's not like, okay, all I have to do is this one thing and I do it well and everything is fixed. It's like, no, it's like you have this problem and this problem and this problem, or this problem that causes these other things. So right now we're just going to address the one, and then once we finish that layer, we start the next layer. It's like you can't just throw, frosting if the cake didn't bake yet. Like you got good analogy. Like you got to bake the cake first, let it cool, have it take its time, and then when it's good, then you could put the frosting on top, and then we can focus on nuance of other things. But it's like you have to get that, like, those one or two foundational things, and kind of like you said, it takes time. It's not just like a, oh, you're just globally extended all the time, so we just got to do all these things with the spine. It's like, will adjusting the spine help? Yes. But now that we've adjusted the spine, there's going to be other parts where they feel a little bit off that we now have to address. You can't just like, it's okay, we can use that one cue for them to start to understand where they need to be. But then it's like, okay, once we get that thing, now we can give a little better nuance on like, okay, now that you've addressed your spine, now we can maybe think about pelvis and foot pressure. Then so once we've done that, oh, we're working heavier. Okay, now we need to talk about maybe you're bracing at that point, or maybe we need to talk about like where your lats are at, because once it gets heavier, you start moving your scaps a bit. So it just is like, it's gonna be kind of like anything else. It's like you just continuously start to build a little bit more until eventually all of these systems have just gotten much better and more efficient, if you will.
I think like the idea of like it's systemically you want to do better as well, right? Because people address one thing at a time, right? It's just like
Hmm.
those people like I've never I don't know if you met people where it's just like they're taking like a bunch of pills. You're like, I'm taking this pill because it deals with this. But then the side effect is that. So I have to take this pill to deal with that side effect. But this pill, like this one has this side effect, but I'm taking that pill for, right? So that's like when we're looking at one movement, like we said like thoracic very extended, so bring the rib cage down. Okay, now you're posteriorly tilted, so you're just like now we have to address this, but now like this, and then like like you can
Hmm.
just jump in between, like take this pill for that side effect, take this exercise for that, do this corrective exercise for this exercise, but then this puts you in this position, so you have to do a corrective exercise for that. Like let's look at it as a system. Let's just like let's do that. Let's try to address most of the things together.
Yeah. It's like, let's not do five drills to get into one exercise. Like, maybe if I just change the loading on the exercise I want you to do, and maybe do some, like, what we might call like a warm up set, where it's like I have you do it with a tempo first, teach you a better position, and then we slowly start to scale that one exercise. It's like, did we need all of those other things? Maybe not, especially like when you're writing a program for someone and they've got, like, we've all got stuff to do. Like no one's got time for their warm up to be 30 freaking minutes. Like unless you are really broken and you've got all the time in the world, then like have at it. But no one has that much time, and why are you using that much energy to do your warm up or do all these other things to then just fix the one thing? It's like what actually reaps more benefit is like we need to actually move you with a little bit more stimulus. But if we're too busy trying to do this thing to then do this thing to then move to this thing, it's like, did we even provide enough stimulus to get to the point by that point? You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah. And even gets like it's like taking three different again. I'm on that pill analogy. If you're taking three different pills for one issue, you don't know which one's actually helping. If you're doing three different corrective exercises for one outcome, and if you get to the outcome, then what? Which one was it, right? Then you have to do like a elimination diet, like do two of them and not one to get to see like if it's there or not. So this is another thing I think like coaches lose track of is like they just try to give like so many different things, right? You know, so many different ideas, and then one like if it works, then you're like, okay, well, which one was it?
Yeah. Sometimes also I feel like it's just because and I think it's all with good intention because you know, as coaches we all want to like do the best for our clients. We want them to get the most benefits. So we're like, okay, you know what they need? They need something with lateral flexion, and then they need something with rotation, and then they need something with you know, spinal flexion, and then a little bit more protraction. And it's like maybe you can do an exercise that does it all. Just one. Or it's kind of like at the end of the day, instead of trying to fix everything so quickly, it's just like sometimes better is better. And it's just like the thing that you were talking about with pain, like same thing, a reason why people go to the physio, they think that like, okay, I'm just going to go in and then everything's going to be better after, and it's like, oh fam, it's a long process that you have to continuously do. Like there's going to be um like there's a reason why you are there. Like it's not just okay, a one and done thing. Like it's something that you progressively just continuously have to do. Like I tell my clients all the time who take time off or like who have like certain strength goals, it's just like the great thing about the I don't know, I feel like weights are just really humbling, and it's like when you take a step away, it's like just because you got strong in some capacity and then you took months away, it's like it's not like it's going to just like stay there. Like your muscles just consistently need to be trained. It doesn't mean you can never take a break from training, but like to some capacity, like you need to know that if you stop doing one or certain things, like it's you're going to notice like the strength is not going to be there. So I hope I made a point. I feel like I went into too many tangents on that one. Um
No, no, I get it, and like that brings this idea in my head that probably is going to be a post coming to your door anytime soon. Is for coaches. Also, when your clients have pain or discomfort, don't have your panties in a bunch. Is that the expression? Right? Don't
yeah.
panic.
Yeah. Mhm.
Just because like people's versions of pain is also different, right? I can come to you and be like, I cut myself, okay? And it could be a paper cut, and it could be I have a friend Lou. He lost his entire index, like he lost one phalange of index finger, right? In like it got caught in a belt, like a elevator belt, and it is just gone, right? So if you go, I cut like people go
Crazy.
up in pain, right? I'm in pain. Like
Mhm.
there is difference to the pain. There's different discomfort, pain. What is pain? Like what's hurting them? What happened? Like don't just panic because as I said, could be a paper cut, could be finger gone,
Mhm.
and you need to know which one you're dealing with. If it's a paper cut, I'll be like, oh, and if it's a finger gone, I'll be like, I'm
I'm shocked. I'm shook.
I'm, I'm shook it. Because that's exactly how he said it. It's like, guys, I lost my finger. And we all were like, haha, classic Lou. And then he sends this picture, and we're like, oh no, it's not classic Lou.
You really lost it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a funny thing too, that you kind of also have to like start sometimes as an expectation, not an expectation, but like I don't know, have like a common I don't want to say common ground. I can't really think of the word for what I'm trying to say, but it's like just establishing like okay, what is actually the level of pain? Like what even some clients who like don't even understand the difference between soreness and pain. It's like having to like have that communication where it's like, but what is it exactly? And even like I'm gonna reiterate this to me where it's like those 5 weeks where I was just like I have like was taking a flight every 3 days. I was teaching intensely for 2 or 3 hours, moving my body like crazy, then sitting for long hours to go on a flight, or like sitting to go on a train. And I was like, after I got up one day, I was like, oh my God, my hip hurts so much. And I was low key freaking out, but I was like, Jackie, your nervous system, don't freak out. It's not gonna make it better. And you were like, Jackie, you just need to sleep, bruh. I'm surprised you lasted this long. And I was like, okay, he just said sleep. Okay, fine. And honestly, like the next day, it felt 50% better just because I slept. So I even had a similar conversation with one of my clients like 2 days ago, and they were like, "This hurts, and this hurts, and this hurts, and this hurts," and I was like, "Well, you've been telling me the past couple weeks that you haven't gotten any sleep and that you haven't felt an appetite, so you're probably not eating as much as well." And it's like those things are also going to impact how you feel. Like, shit doesn't just hit the fan. Like
Mhm.
that's what I think people don't understand is that they people are just like, I don't know how this happened. How did this come about? And it's like sometimes you wake up and it do be like that because it's the human body and it's just like shit just is the way that it is. But like other times it's just like, and that's why we have clients track metrics because it's like, oh, how much sleep have you had? Have you been hydrating? Are you eating? It's like it didn't just happen out of nowhere. Like this is very cumulative, you know? So um yeah, but it's also like again, good having that thing where it's like just because you feel pain here doesn't mean it's like red alert. Oh no, we're back to where we were. It's like, are you just having a bad day? Are you just stressed? Did you just drink no water? Did you eat anything? Like all of these, and people I think don't understand how big of a difference that makes until you ask them to track it.
Yeah.
And then they start seeing a lot of correlations with how they're feeling and how nervous system things.
Yeah, a human body is a wondrous, fantastic system. It's so like, and I don't know nowhere near as much as like people know, and as much as the like the industry in not just fitness, but like as much as humans know about the human body, we don't like we've only like unlocked 20%. There's so much happens that they don't even know, right?
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm,
also it has some weird systems that are just like so out of whack that like the example of it is like heart attack. Like your heart is having an issue, and then like people get like a droopy face and a random shooting pain in the left. Like for
mm-hmm,
something so sophisticated, this being like a heart attack reaction sounds weird, right? Or like if you've had something really cold, you brain freeze, right?
mm-hmm,
Brain freeze is actually your body's way of being confused. Because we were like, why do you get brain freeze? And we went and looked at it. It's like you ingest something really cold, and your body gets confused. It doesn't know what it is, so it sends it as a pain signal to your head. That's all it does. And we're like, what? Like how? Why? Like it just doesn't make sense. But it's just like it's like a error 404, right? That's essentially what.
Error for body's like something's off. Alert.
Something happened. I don't know. Headache. Uh, but yeah. So like with these things, like because I think like we also hear, especially with Gen Pop, that like people just immediately go to like, yeah, I injured myself. It's not even pain. It's not that I hurt. Like they don't even go like, oh, I'm in pain or I'm in discomfort. They just go like, the first thing is like, yeah, I injured myself. It's like, did you, or are you just like sore, or it's just like you hurt yourself a little bit. Like yeah, like because like especially back pain. God forbid back pain. Like back pain can be from like a blown out spine, I don't know, shotgun to the spine, or it can be just like a muscle spasm. But like the moment people get back pain, oh, I injured myself. Spinal. Sorry.
Final.
Hurt my back. If you don't know this, just Google Mike Tyson spinal, and then you'll see the interview. It's just the funniest thing ever. Um,
Good one, good one.
but yeah,
Spinal.
well, I think
Yeah,
we're
I.
going
Mhm.
on a lot of tangents now. So
So many tangents. I feel like hopefully we covered the original point. You
yeah,
need thoracic extension.
you need thoracic
It's
extension.
okay.
It's fine. It's just not fine when you have too much of it. Like again, just a little, and just a little bit. That's it. If you're somewhere just a little bit back, don't give people the whole opposite spectrum of movements to just fix them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need it. Just meet them where they are, and just take one or two steps back. That's literally exercise. Don't jump off the bandwagon. Don't jump off the train. Sorry, just like step one or two steps down.
Mm-hmm. I think it's
Don't.
also like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. Step down, don't step away. That's my favorite soundbite.
Yeah, I was also gonna say like, I don't know if this is something that people do, but it's like maybe having at some point like some litmus test as you're doing things because I also do think that like as much as like I agree with what you said where it's like you still need to be able to do the other things, like don't be jamming into positions because that's where stuff goes awry is when like you run out and then you just start jamming into positions, but it's like you actually actively can hold those positions. So it's like for someone, and again, I will just use myself, like I always just jammed into extension, and that was just a place that I lived. And then the more that I started to know, and the more I started to move my body, not jamming into my joints, I really want to put a post up too, because back in the day, a couple years ago, when you could see my stance in an overhead squat, like 2 or 3 years ago, and then my stance now in an overhead squat, and it is completely different. Like my feet are like here, and everything about my body is just like extended to the max. It was honestly, I look at my squat back then and I'm like, how the frick was I even in that position? And it's like now I've actually like dialed it back because I've actually been able to just move out of just an ER stuck position through everything. Um yeah, that was kind of like just my last point because I feel that like that's another thing is that you can't jam into extension, but you also need to make sure you still maintain training in extension. So just because you might be someone who, if you live at that end range ER and you still need to learn how to train into like positions of like neutral or making sure that you can appropriately like um, move into flexion or IR, it doesn't mean to stop training those extended positions entirely because you need them. Like I'm using them as athlete example, like you need them for your sport, you need to be strong to be able to do your sport, but you got to sprinkle in your broccoli with the cake, I guess the analogy.
Yeah, I think like I'm gonna throw my last analogy, and that's my last
Hmm.
one,
Yeah.
because I've talked about this a couple of times. Performance is not inherently safe, right? Or performance is not even optimal, right? Like to do something, you have to make a compensation to finish, right? You have to disassociate movement to get like putting a heavy dumbbell over your head is not the most natural thing, right? There needs to be some sort of a movement breakdown or compensation throughout the body for you to be able to stabilize it and get into the right position, right? Or I call it disassociation of certain ways the body moves. You disassociate a couple of things to finish the task. Task always wins. And I always compare this to language, and that's why I love movement literacy's concept. Is like when you learn a language, first you need to like learn the word like words, letters, conjugation, how to build sentences, how to form it. This is all movement literacy. Like you need to learn these basics first, right? How human body associates and how it moves. And then once you have total mastery over a language, you can go into poetry. You can break the rules. You can just like move things around. And that's disassociation, especially for performance, especially for athletes. Because like a lot of athletic endeavors are not unnatural performances. If you want to see something unnatural, just see like the best example like Shallow gave me is the guys who throw spears. Like what is the sport? Um,
uh
javelin,
Javelin.
javelin throwers, right?
Javelin.
They run sideways, like they run like they're running and their torso is the other. Like so, like we all run forward. They have to run sideways. That's one of the biggest examples of disassociating this human concept, like gait cycle essentially. Like we talk so much about gait cycle and how humans are like meant to move and what happens when movement occurs, and then we have to completely disassociate, completely break that cycle to do an athletic endeavor, which is throwing a stick as far as possible, right? So we need to first learn some of the association. We need to learn some of the basic rules of how this language works and body language works. And as we said, like
Hmm.
different people have a little bit different language, but overall arching, like overall system can be similar. And
Hmm.
once, because even in language, you and I speak. Well, I'm not that great at it because I can use the excuse of English being my second language. But even the words we favor, like I will go to certain words or expressions or describe something in a way that makes sense to me and I like to say it, and you would
Hmm.
use it differently. That would be movement as well. Like we don't need to always do and speak the same way. We don't need to always move and have the same cues. We don't need to always have the same fixes for everything, right? Like there'll be different interpretations of certain things, and that's
Hmm.
good. But
Hmm.
generally, we both know how to use the language.
Hmm. Hmm. It's kind of like anybody, yeah, like if you look at any top athlete in their sport, they move completely different from what is considered like the way to do things. And it's because that's how they figured how to move and that works for them. And it's like
Exactly.
for you to say that's not the right way, it's like, okay, well, they're an Olympic athlete and they're the top athlete in their sport. So how are you going to tell them that that's not right? You know?
Yeah, and that movement is poetry for me. That's breaking the rules.
Hmm.
That's just like making something beautiful, not the way it was meant to be. So yeah, that's my last
Hmm.
analogy. I think this was fantastic. We can end it on that note.
Hmm.
Thank you so much for this. Is there anything you want to end on? Anything you want to tell people? Like one last punch?
Just say like, and maybe this has nothing to do with like what we talked about, but if you see something online, instead of criticizing it, ask questions about it. I think that's such a big thing that kind of irritates me, and I feel like why a lot of these things have come about, because it's like instead of just trying to understand and see what this other person is doing, maybe you don't know about it and maybe you can learn something from it, or maybe then you can decipher it's not for you. But I would just say like ask more questions about something before you go to critique or judge something. And that's all I have to say. Irrelevant, but something I'm trying to spread around to the people.
Fantastic. We love it. All
Okay.
right. Well, thank you so much. Jackie, thanks so much for anyone who listened to this webinar slash podcast slash free resource that we're going to put out there. Um, if there are topics that you guys want us to go through or things that you want us to actually break down, maybe you listen to this and you're like, oh, this was very generalized, but like, what about this? How would you look at like helping someone with their hinge? Man, what would be that? Like someone with a deadlift, what would be actionable items that you guys use? And again, what we do is not necessarily the best, but it's something that helped us and our clients. And like, again, it might not fit everyone, but we can give you our 2 cents. Let us know. Have a wonderful day, evening, slash whatever time it is, wherever you are. And thank you for listening.
Thanks, Mahan.